Hello, my friends, again. We'll continue our class about the Messiah, and we'll compare Halachic Messiah as opposed to mystical. And today's topic will be the Jewish mystical Messiah. So until now, we talk about the Halachic one, as encoded by the rabbis in Amida prayer and by the Rambam, based on Torah. That's the Halachic Messiah. And now we move on to the mystical Messiah, which is fascinating, but not abiding halachically. And we will touch the following books that are the founding of mysticism in Judaism. I will talk about Rabbi Akiva and the false prophet. We talk about the mystical chariot literature based on Yechezkiel prophet vision of the chariot. We talk about the heavenly palaces literature. We describe the heavenly palaces that the Messiah sits there. We talk about the book of creation, Yetzirah, and we talk about the book of brightness, Bahir. And we mention, if you have time, the book of Zohar, the Splendor. All those books are important because they are the founding stone of mysticism in Judaism, and they give the foundation, they form the foundation of what we call mystical Messiah. If I want to pick up where we studied last time, we talked about the rabbinical aspect, and we mentioned that the rabbis compose a prayer, Amida prayer, in which they express their hope to see the Messiah. In that prayer, naturally, you can see what was a vision of the Messiah, the rabbinical vision of Messiah. Since we still pray or recite this prayer, even today, twice a day, so that's important, that's abiding halachic view, and it has not changed for 2,500 years. So let's see, repeat the main point of that prayer. Remember, they were returning from Babylon, year 510, to start a new Jewish community in the land of Israel. And so they are going to replant the tree of Israel in the Holy Land. So what Bilam had seen years ago, at the time of Moses, now they're going to repeat the story. And so they knew they're going to repeat the story of the Bible, if you want. Planting of Israel, like in Joshua time, then building judges in Torah community and judges, like in the book of Judges, restoring Jerusalem, like in book of Samuel, kingship of David, and then the temple, like King Solomon. We are going to repeat those historical stages. So once we have those stages fulfilled, then we will see the offshoot of David. So they knew that they're going to repeat those steps of the past and to restore the glory. The Talmud says that's why they are called the Great Assembly. They wanted to restore the greatness of the Jewish history now again in the land of Israel. Now, obviously, in that prayer, now they express the idea of rabbinical Messiah. Let's see again what it is. They pray to Hashem in Amida prayer. Let's return to you. Let's help us to return your captivity from the hand of the Gentiles. That's called redemption, like from the hand of Pharaoh. Let us gather all the exiles to the land of Israel, plant them again, like in Joshua time. Let's restore the Jewish court, like in the book of Judges. Let's rebuild Jerusalem, like in the book of Samuel. And let's see the David house coming back to power. And let's see the temple rebuilt, like in Samuel, in like King Solomon, Book of Kings. And let's see the Shekhinah coming down, like it was in King Solomon time, and fire came down from heaven. The Shekhinah came down. And let's see your service again being conducted in the temple. And then we will see the son of David, offshoot of David. All these steps are coded one by one in that order. The order is important in Amida prayer. So we hope that to pass those steps faster than in the past. In the past, it took hundreds of years, but the Rabbi hoped it will take shorter than that. The Rambam explained why. Because they look at the Deuteronomy, the last chapters of Deuteronomy, Moses says that when Israel exile will return to the land, Hashem will make things better than to your forefather, better than to your forefather, which means faster. So they hope that it will not take too long, and they will see the house of David being restored, and the temple restored, and the Shekhinah coming down, which actually did not happen. Let's note an important point, that among the 120 members of this body, rabbinical body, called the Great Assembly, Knesset, the Great Knesset, in year 510 BC. Among them were 3 prophets, the last ones, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Those 3 prophets are known to had already prophesied about the end of time. Zechariah of all is the one who talked about the mountain splitting and the town besieged, people are raped, and calamities. And other prophets, the same thing. And yet, although he already prophesied about this end of time event, yet when he was sitting in a rabbinical court to write the Amida prayer, he agreed that these are the steps for the Messiah. Obviously, in his mind, there was a complete separation between the Messiah coming and the end of time prophecies. One should not mix the two. Now, for the next 420 years or 10 years of the second temple, when it was standing until it was destroyed, there was no messianic movement. Scholars wonder about it. But all the wars, including the Maccabee revolution against Hellenism, it lacked any messianic aspiration. The books that were written about those times, Ben Sira and others, really lack any messianic aspiration or hopes. And the question is why? And so I quote some of the scholars said, as if the messianic aspiration was dormant. It was not dormant. It simply followed what the Daniel had said. Daniel lamented already in chapter 9, if I believe, that from now on, when he started the second temple, he lamented the fact that there will be no Holy of Holies, because there is no Holy Ark anymore, no cherubs, no Shekhinah in the temple that you build now, and no golden cherubs, as you said, and no oil, there will be no holy oil to anoint anyone. So neither the high priest or the king, there will be no anointed high priest, and there will be no anointed king or Messiah king. Messiah simply means anointed. So he lamented there will be no anointed, because simply there was no oil anymore, holy, divine holy. The oil that was used to anoint the vessel of the temple and the high priest and the king, the oil had been done by Moses himself hundreds of years ago. Now, after the destruction, it was gone. It was not recovered. So there will be no Messiah priest and no Messiah king. And that's what that was Daniel actually said. And indeed, that's what happened during the 420 years of the Second Temple. So people actually took it out of their minds. It didn't play any role in politics. The Hasmonaim king in the year around 200 BC, when they revolt against the Greek, they just wanted to revolt against the Greek and to purify the temple from the idolatry that they put there. But they had no aspiration of bringing back the Messiah at that point. So it was dormant, but it was alive, because when one of the Sadducite king, Hasmonaim ruler, Yanai, when he called himself a king, because the Sadducite didn't believe in oral Torah, they didn't believe in David dynasty. So he called himself a king. Oh, there was a revolt, bloody revolt. How dare you? So it was not dormant, but it was pushed to the future when God will help us and we'll have back the technical things, like the Shekhinah. We need still the Shekhinah in the temple. We need to see the Holy Ark. We need to see the cherub. And we need to see all the things that are lacking now. So until then, the idea of the Messiah was pushed aside. But they wouldn't allow anyone to take the title of a king. Even the revolt against Rome in a year 70 that finally ended up with destruction of the temple, the great revolt against Rome that was recorded by Josephus Flavius. There were no messianic aspiration there. They want to topple Rome. They want to get away from Caligula, who put his image in the Holy of Holies. They couldn't tolerate that. They couldn't tolerate the economic the oppression. Pontius Pilatus was such an evil person. Pontius Pilatus, who Christianity revered, he was deposed by the Roman Senate from his governorship. It's the only case in Roman history that the Senate called back the governor and deposed him because he was so cruel. He crucified so many people and he killed so many people. And the oppression of the taxes was so high. It was not worthy. I mean, he should have collected taxes to send to Rome, but he didn't do it. So they call him back. This beautiful Pontius Pilatus is so revealed. He was so cruel and insufficient. So they call him back, and he, as I heard, they talk about it. He lived in Rome. He tried to restore his political career. It didn't help him. He wanted to get another position. It didn't allow him. But the revolt against Rome at that time was fueled by politics and by the fact that the emperor wanted not to pray for him. They would certainly do it, but he put his status in the Holy of Holies or in the temple. Not one of them, but several of them. And for that, the Jews wouldn't succumb. So if that revolt also lacked any clear messianic aspiration. They didn't fight for a Messiah to come. They wanted to topple Rome. Now things completely changed after the destruction. After the devastation, a messianic aspiration started to brew in a Jewish mind. Only 50 or 60 years later, 135 AD now, there was a second revolt, major revolt in Judea. This revolt was led by Simon from Koziva, or the son of Koziva. Koziva is a place. It's north of Haifa today, north of Akko, by the shore. And Koziva, the son of Koziva, or from Koziva, he managed to drive out the Roman legions. He was successful for a few years. And he declared himself a prince, following the Yechezkiel prophecy. He wouldn't call himself a king, but a prince. And he started building the third temple. He started building Jerusalem. It was ruined until that time. And he started to rebuild the third temple. So for 3 years he reigned. And then Adrian legion crushed him. But when he was at the peak of his power, here is our story, that's why I bring it up here. At the peak of his power, the great sages, the greater sage of the time, Rabbi Akiva, taught Mishnah, a sage of the Mishnah, one of the greatest scholars ever to live. He was so impressed, so he called Simon the star of Jacob. Bilam used Bilam words, star of Jacob, meaning the Messiah. Why? because all the stages were fulfilled. Jerusalem is going to be restored, already being restored. The temple is now being restored. Wow, all the stages that in the 18 Amida prayer are being fulfilled. So of course, this is a guy we should recognize as a Messiah, the Star of David. So his name is Star of Jacob. His name was changed from Koziva to Kochva. Kochva is a star. So the son of the star, recalling or invoking the word of Balaam that said, Balaam said, I'm seeing it not now, and he will come. This is the star of Jacob. So Rabbi Akiva used Balaam words to call to address Simon now as a star Bar Kochva, hinting that he already fulfilled all the messianic necessary steps. So, as the Rambam says, he is assumed to be Messiah. Now, that didn't change how people relate to Simon. They didn't bow to him more than before. They didn't pray to him more than before. They didn't pray to him at all. And Simon and Bar Kochva were not considered heavenly figure, cosmic figure that came down from heaven on a cloud. He was a human being that fulfilled the other accommodation. So as the Rambam says, we recognize him. We assume to him to have a Messiah, to be a Messiah. We didn't even expect him to do miracles. The only miracle we wanted to perform is redeem us from the hand of Rome. And that's what he did. Or to rebuild the temple, that's what he did. That's enough to call him a Messiah. So that's the importance of that event in history. It was a false Messiah. First of all, he was not from the descendant of David. Obviously, of course, there was no oil. That may be not so, in the eyes of Rabbi Akiva, that was not necessary ingredient, could be. But the fact is, when Talmud analyzed it, they see some faults in the character of this Simon. Anyhow, it will turn to be a false Messiah with terrible consequences. Adrian Legion came with vengeance. They killed anywhere between 500 to 600,000 people, emaciating the Jewish population. They destroyed hundreds of villages. It was such a blow that the Jewish presence in the Holy Land started to go down. It would take hundreds of years until the state of Israel, in nowadays, the Jewish presence in the Holy Land almost gone. In the time of Byzantine, it shrunk to minimum, but the Byzantine after 393, when the Byzantine came to power, turned Christian, they made the life of Jews in Israel, in land of Israel, so bitter, so harsh, that Jews start to leave the country, forced. So that made things even worse in the Jewish imagination. So where is the Messiah now? The more the oppression, the harsher was the oppression, the more they turn to mysticism. And that's what we see, the mysticism start to rise in the Jewish mind, in the books of Echalot, palaces, in the book of chariots, and which I'll describe to you shortly, and the figure of the Messiah coming now from heaven, since the politics is such that they couldn't even imagine restoring the house of David and fulfilling all this recommendation for the Amida prayer. So, and could be that the Messiah will come and start the whole process. The rabbinical view was that we restart the process, and finally we recognize a king who fulfilled everything. We recognize him as a Messiah, finally. But could be that he will start with nothing there, and he will come from heaven to start the process. That's mystical. So where is he now? Why is he not coming? And that's the question that enter the minds and try to solve by this mystical literature. Here's the timeline that we are talking about. You see on that side there, you see the destruction of the temple, year 70. This is the end of the Mishnah time. Then 135 under Rome, still under Rome, Bar Kokhba revolt, Rabbi Akiva, and the beginning of the mystical books. Then 393, empire turned Christian, the split of the empire to east and west, Byzantine, and things get worse to the Jews. The Talmud is closed at that point. So about the year 410, 450, this is the Talmud that closed anymore. They stop recording anymore to the Talmud. So first it was Mishnah. The Mishnah was stopped about the year 130, 140. And Talmud was closed by 400 AD, both at Yerushalmi. There are two Talmud, Yerushalmi and Babylonian. They all reflect on the Mishnah. They studied the Mishnah. So it was closed. And the few Jews that were left, relatively few Jews, that were left in Galilee and to live very poorly, they finally had to live under, they lived under extreme oppression by the Byzantine. The 640 Islamic invasion, and they conquered Jerusalem. And the Crusader came much later. The book that we are talking about, the palaces, you see the bottom line, book of the palaces, the chariot, and the Yetzirah, and the Bahir, the brightness, all this mystical work were probably published during the Byzantine time, maybe towards the end, as the scholars say, in the last phase of the Byzantine time. But it took years to develop this mysticism and the belief in the mystical Messiah. So let's now, for your information simply, discuss just in general terms what are these books, because it will tell you, and I will pick up things, motive from those books that can explain the Messiah, the mystical Messiah. Those books are vast. They analyze the entire Torah, but I will pick up from there from the mystical work, only topics that make some sense in the perception of mystical Messiah in Judaism. At first, before we start the discussion, the mystical Kabbalah and so on that was founded at that time, there was a warning, interesting warning in the Talmud for anyone who start to study those things. First of all, you need to learn Talmud and Mishnah and Torah for years. You need to be of a certain age, and you need to have a background. Otherwise, things can get really bad for you. Not only this, but things can happen to you even if you learn Torah. I'll tell you what the Talmud says. A famous story. The Talmud speaks about 4 stages entering an orchard, the orchard. Orchard is a nickname or code name, acronym actually, for the mystical world. Orchard is a mystical universe. And those 4 stages, they were full of Torah. They were actually disciples of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was one of them. So let's see what happened to them, to those 4. One died young. The other one became heretic. The other one lost his mind. The third one lost his mind. Only Rabbi Akiva entered in peace and exited in peace. So you may enter and something happened to you, and if you get too much to the holy of holy, mystical, you can die. And you can get heretic, become heretic. Why? Because if you mind start deal with high level of God names and to analyze it, and you may think, oh, if I understand those things, it means they are nothing. You look down on those topics, God names, because it looks to you, well, it's not so great. I understand them. You become heretic. So instead of falling more in love with God, you can look down on him because of this Kabbalistic structure that you say, oh, that's nothing. And then you go astray. The third one lost his mind. That understood. If you go too deep, you can be confused. And you don't come back to real life. There are some scholars like that. They enter the world of Kabbalah and they stuck there. They never recover. They cannot come back to real life. Yeah, they can eat and whatever, but I mean, they cannot function anymore like normal people. The only one who managed to enter in peace and come out with peace is Rabbi Akiva. Because Rabbi Akiva, when he went up to the level of mysticism, and he saw the palaces, as we're going to talk about in a minute, and he saw the Messiah, mystical Messiah there, it didn't confuse him. He came back and he looked at Simon, the son of Koziva. If I feel the requirement, you are Messiah. This Messiah that was in front of him down on earth was nothing compared to this mystical Messiah up here in heaven. So he managed to go in peace, enter in peace, saw what he saw. He described it as clear marbles, pure marbles that he saw there. And then he came, but he managed to come back and act normally, learn Torah, teach Torah normally, and even see Simon, who was not a cosmic figure, and he called him Messiah. So he didn't stop him from being normal. And so that's Rabbi Akiva. We should remember that warning of the Talmud. And when we discuss this mysticism, we'll try to come back to normal. We're not going to stay there in the mysticism. So let's talk in short, give you a survey of what the Book of Palaces are. The Book of the Palaces are about 20 of them, 25 of them were published recently in Israel, in Hebrew, and you can read it. What's common, they were all published after, they're all written after the failure of the revolt of Bar Kokhba, under Byzantine, like up to Byzantine there. What do they describe? The author of these books, listen to that. They managed to fast, and after fasting and praying, they managed to go in dream or at night up to the heaven and visit the palaces in heaven, the palace of the king in heaven. How many of them are? 6. They are the 6 are such. There are 6 are such that one is inside the other. So the first palace is finally inside the second one, and both of them are inside the third one. So like onion, you go from, when you visit the first one, but surely you go for the second and third, higher and higher and broader and broader. 6 palaces. The last one, the 7th one, so the 6th one encompasses all the others before him. It's larger, but inside it contains all the other palaces before, underneath him or inside him. The 7th one is called the concealed Holy of Holiness, and it does enter the 6th one. Now, obviously, if you just listen to what I said, this is built on the story of creation. There are 6 days of creation, and the days are such that each day enters the next one. The vegetation of the 3rd day enters the number 4, the 5, they're all here. When I live here now on the 6th day, all the days are included. So it's built on chapter 1, and God is a builder who build here. He build the 6 days, but up in heaven he built counterpart for his own palace to dwell, so to speak. So these are the palaces of God, the counterpart of what he built here. Each palace is full of creatures that parallel or counterpart of our universe. Whatever was made on day 5, you find it up there as a holy beast, the author call it. And it's full of angels and Ophanim, and also the chariot of Yechezkel is there too. So it's a fascinating vision, very rich in language, beautiful, liberal, but that's basically the expansion of chapter 1. Now the book, you wonder what these palaces are. So here come the book of Yetzirah and the book of brightness, and explain to you that those, you remember, each endeavor we take on earth is we go through 3 levels. If I want to do a dress, if I want to make myself a dress, I will first design it in my mind. I'll ask myself, what do I need it for? Evening or morning, sport or whatever, casual or not. That's the stage of conceiving the dress. Then I will go to be particular about the dress, what color, what stuff, what material, what shape. I will take it, if I have an artist's talent, I'll draw it on the paper. That's called forming. So the first one is creation, the general concept. Second one is forming the dress on the paper. The third one, when I sit down and make the dress. It's making. Turn out that the story of creation is written in the Torah in 3 levels. Chapter 1 is Bria, which is conception. Chapter 2, with the story of Eden, is a Yetzirah on a world of paper. It's what we call virtual world. And later on is Asiya, a real world. Come Sefer Yetzirah and explain those palaces. The palaces are this on the level of Yetzirah. When human beings do it, it's remain in our mind virtual, both levels. But when God, so to speak, go through or prepare the creation of those 3 levels, those 3 levels actually are palaces in the world of Bria, in the world of Yetzirah. So when the author went up, or when his soul went up to heaven to look for those palaces, he went up to, that's what Sefer Yetzirah said, he went to this level of Yetzirah and Bria, that up there in heaven, you see all these creatures, and among them you see Messiah. Messiah is sitting in where, of course, in palace number 6, which is counterpart of our day 6, where we live. Everything in our days is presented there, not only the Messiah. So the fact that Messiah sits by this palace doesn't make him any different. But he sit there, or his soul sit there, by the throne of the heavenly king. So the heavenly king ruled day 6. His will, he's governor, he's governing the day, and he is a king, superior king, and Messiah is a human king or the counterpart of real, is on level of Yetzira, a level of Bria, on a virtual level of the Messiah there. Remember, this is Jewish Messiah. So don't confuse it with somebody else's Messiah. So when we talk about this, it makes sense. It's mystical, but it makes sense. I can envision it. It's not against the Torah. Okay. Now, the part of the story is that the visitor come to see the Messiah, come to him and ask the famous question, well, why don't you come, sir? We are waiting for you. So the Messiah turned to him, he says two answers, different books. One of them, he says, in its time, I shall hasten it. God said, God told me that in his time, when time comes, I will hasten it. So, or it's not the right time. When time comes, he will send me fast. Right now, it's not the time. Actually, quoting Isaiah chapter 60, verse 22. So it's not the time. The second answer is more profound. He says, the visitor asked him, sir, why don't you come? Are you coming? He says, today, if you deserve it, if you call Hashem, if you listen to Hashem, I'll come right now. Oh, here is the notion that the arrival of this mystical Messiah depends on our listening to God. It's not building the land of Israel. It's not settling agricultural communities and building Jerusalem and the state of Israel. No. You need to listen to God, to pray, to learn more Torah, to learn mysticism. That's the implication of that visit, which impacted Judaism for hundreds of years. The books were published in about, let's say, 700, 600 AD. The impact of this vision lasted and affected Judaism until 19th century. We'll talk about it. So all these years, the vision of mystical messianic prevailed. It depends on us not to go to the land of Israel. Maybe better not to go, because we are not allowed to go, because Messiah should lead us. But what we need to do, learn more Torah, lead more ascetic life, lead more correctly, learn and do whatever necessary, mystically, to enhance his coming or to support, to assure its coming, because he said, today I'm coming, depend on you. And that's really worked very well on Jews that lived at that time, not first under Byzantine, but then the Crusaders, the terrible massacres in Europe. The Jewish population diminished, destroyed. People are desperate. So Messiah should come. We should pray to the Messiah to save us. So this redemption from the end of Gentiles became paramount. Forget about the 7 commandments. The Messiah come to the vision of Messiah is to, according to Isaiah, is to teach humanity 7 commandments. But for Jews, in a 10, 15, 10, 12, 13, 14th century, The paramount, the most important thing is the Messiah comes to redeem us from the edge of the oppressive regime who hate us for no reason. And he will take us to Israel. He will restore Jerusalem. He will do everything. All we need to do is to cling to the Torah, do mitzvot, and pray and pray and pray and pray. Mystical Judaism prevailed. They learn more mysticism than ever before. Let's go back to the Rambam. He lived in the middle of 12th century, 1150, let's say, that's cut off. So the Rambam, his own brother, died when he joined a false Messiah. So the Rambam writes in a code of law. And for us, the Rambam is the epitome, is what is Orthodox Judaism. He is considered second to Moses. So he was aware of this trend of the mysticism, very much so. His own brother died from a messianic David al-Roy in Babylon, that the messianic movement arose because of the mysticism. So he wrote in a code of law, he says, he repeats the idea of the Amida prayer. When a king of David ancestry come, and when he restore Israel, and he plant Israel back to the land, we gather the exile. When he does all this and this, when he builds Jerusalem, then we will recognize him as a possible Messiah. He will qualify to be Messiah. And he rejects wholeheartedly the idea that the Messiah come with a headline on his forehead saying, "I am a Messiah, follow me." And he didn't do anything. That doesn't make any sense to the Rambam. It's against the halacha. Not only that, he says, "Stay away, my son, from all the discussion of the end of time, because people in the feverish pursuit of the mystical Messiah, they start to combine the end of the day of the Lord prophecy and the end of time prophecy that we discuss in Isaiah chapter 2. They combine it with the Messiah, and preacher went out from community and talking about the Messiah coming with the end of time, with Gog and Magog, and calculations. And he's coming next year because my calculations show this and this and this. So prepare. And the Jews were so oppressed, live in such a bitter life. When you hear that, well, he's packing. So the Rambam says, stay away from those preachers, stay away from these discussions. And there's no connection between Messiah and those end of time. And those end of time, by the way, he says, we don't know what they mean. When they come, we will know. Are they all allegorically spoken? Would the lion really live in peace with the lamb in nature, or is it just a metaphor? Would the mountain really split, or is it a metaphor? Gog and Magog, leave it alone. Don't waste your time. It won't make you a better Jew. But learn Torah and keep the commandment and build and try to go through the rabbinical process. Go back to the land of Israel and start building it. That's a different. make you a better Jew and a better man, but stay away from this mysticism that will lead you to false Messiah and mistakes. All right, that's all for now. It's a lot of material. I know it's heavy to digest, difficult to digest. Think about it. I only gave you the headline. I wanted to talk about the book of Yetzirah and a book of Bahir more in detail, just for information. I will leave it for next class, and I will tie it together with the Zohar. So I will devote next time the discussion of this mystical literature that impacted Judaism until recently, until 19th century. So we'll discuss that in general detail, and the catastrophe that those believe has caused, a series of false messiah that Christians are not even aware of it, but it destroyed Judaism for generations. So we'll discuss this next class. Thank you and have a nice day.